Hi, and welcome to InfoSec Pros on the road at RSA 2024. I'm your host, Kane McGladdery, and I'm here joined today with Brenda Bernal, who is the VP of Product Security and Compliance at Digicert. Great to see you today, Brenda.
Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here, and I'm finally glad to meet you in person, considering all those times we've collaborated over Zoom calls.
Yeah, this is fantastic to be able to see each other in person. Also, you brought your team to RSA as well. For them, some of them, is it their first time?
Yes, it has.
Wow, all the way from, I think you said Melbourne, and I think I met someone from Tokyo, right?
Yes. Coming here for some of their credits that they're doing from the conference.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So they're getting continuing education credits as well as like exposure to all the vendors here at RSA.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about RSA in a bit, but I wanted to ask, just at the top, you and I have had a lot of conversations around governance, and what's your opinion of the state of AI governance within organizations today, and what do you really think the key risks they should focus on are?
Yeah, let me first start by acknowledging that the developments in artificial intelligence in the past year or so is nothing short of astonishing. I mean, we're at an inflection point where AI has pivoted from transcended beyond the recurrent themes of science fiction to now application across tangible benefits for the masses with their business use cases and application. So I think for me, AI is the fastest moving technology that I've seen, at least in my lifetime. With that comes changes in regulations and laws that needs to keep pace. And I know that the regulators are doing a fairly good job trying to keep pace with this and making sure that there are some guiding principles for us to use for us to build guardrails as we evolve our governance models. And the key risk that needs to be managed are the same ones, but you have to apply the AI lens to it. It's data privacy, security, risk, data and content provenance because of all the copyright laws.
Right.
And so that shapes the AI model that evolves over time with this technology. And not just for your own organization, but also externally with your third-party suppliers and partners in how they do business with you and using AI. So it's a whole ecosystem at play.
Yeah, I do think that's very timely advice, because we're seeing this increase in interest in integration of AI into literally everything.
Yeah.
And there are definitely control frameworks that exist in the world. I remember when I was reading all of the Section 10K or Section 1C out of the 10Ks, I saw a lot of talk of cybersecurity governance and AI governance co-mingled, and often with the NIST cybersecurity framework, although some of my favorite 10Ks said the NIST framework. You can imagine that's going to go well in post, right? But we're trying to adapt into existing frameworks. So what do you think are some of the challenges of integrating AI into those existing control frameworks, and how can we effectively manage that change?
I would take an outside-in perspective, see how the evolution of regulations and laws come into effect, and how that will eventually impact the compliance and audit regimes that we're beholden to. Mm-hmm. So in our case, we're a public CA, so we do web trust and Etsy. But also in those general compliance frameworks like SOC 2, the audits that we do around that. And coincidentally, at the end of December 2023, ISO came out with their ISO 42001,
right,
which is very focused on AI. And for many organizations that are steeped in ISO and looking to get certified around that with AI, that's one to watch. But beyond just that macro view of what's going on the regulatory environment, from a practical standpoint, you have to look within your enterprise on how you are using AI, right? Start with an inventory, find out how you're using AI, or what problems is it trying to solve, what data are you exposing to it internally and externally today and in the future, and most importantly, how you would vet the output of what's coming out of the AI, because you want to make sure there's no bias or misinformation that comes out of it. So you feed that back into the model and train it to be much more precise and accurate in its responses.
Okay, and so then up-leveling, because those are all controls, and I think you and I could probably agree, that's like essential controls we've had for years. Data inventory, data controls,
yes,
third-party risk management, vendor risk management, supply chain.
Absolutely.
If I take that up to the board level, what do you really see, in your opinion, as the effective hallmarks of AI governance as a model?
So two that comes top of mind from essential components of a framework is sustainability and adaptability, because AI is fast moving. So you have to keep that in mind in terms of designing your controls that can sustain over time and adapt as you need it to. We all say that compliance today isn't necessarily compliance for tomorrow, so you have to evolve it over time.
Okay, fantastic. And then, so what about, you talked about some of the risks associated with AI. What role do you really think transparency is going to play in AI governance? And then how are organizations going to effectively communicate that outwards to regulators, to legislators, to make sure that their AI implementations are transparent enough that they don't draw undue scrutiny?
Yeah, I think transparency is a key theme around AI, especially. Whether it's the White House executive order call to action around transparency and responsible AI, with Microsoft even coming out with their responsible AI transparency report for all of 2023, they talk about how they're putting, some of the key guiding principles and, safety in their products. I think more and more you'll see that type of reporting coming out of enterprises, because transparency is key. You want to explain to your ecosystem, your stakeholders, how you're using AI, what you're doing around providing safety guardrails around it. And I'd say that during the times of when ESG reporting became the big thing with our consciousness around climate change, I'd say transparency reporting around AI will become a standard part of reporting at some point, like how ESG became.
You really brought in two favorite things there, which are reports and SEC actions. So I love that the Microsoft report talked about the value of training all of their employees on responsible AI usage.
Yes.
And I think on the ESG, the one thing I'm looking for, and I hope we don't see, but I think we've had this conversation before, is when a company has a breach, they have to file an 8K. Yeah. And I think about how the SEC examinations, Gerwal-Gerben, has recently said we're concerned about AI disclosures and AI transparency.
Yeah.
And I think back to an ESG case that happened in the past decade where a company said, look, we've got the best environmental controls. If you want environment, we do it the best. And then they had a bunch of dams burst and people died. And there were lawsuits,
yes.
And there was a tragic loss of human life. And eventually the SEC's examinations division rolled up on their doorstep and said, so tell us about those disclosures you made about ESG. Mm-hmm. I can't help but think that's going to be the model we see moving forward, where an 8K leads to a 10K analysis by examinations. Do you think that's going to be the model we see?
I'd say so, yes.
And hopefully it doesn't, it's nowhere near as material as those were.
Yes.
Okay, let's move to a more positive note. What do you think of some of the recent developments in automation that have really improved GRC processes?
Speaking from my own personal experience, having started my career as an external auditor, actually, and we did our work papers on worksheets and whatnot, and Lotus Notes, dare I say.
Oh dear, yeah. Yep.
To now where we are today, a full-fledged GRC platform, right, that has information about our requirements and our controls. And now we've taken advantage, working closely with Hyperproof on pre-built automations, integration with our sources of evidence. So all of this, within the same platform is an incredible development in the space. It's become much more of an efficiency for not just the compliance personnel within the company, but for all the stakeholders who are involved with providing evidence during audits.
Yeah, and I love that you bring in that external auditor perspective, because as a recovering auditor and former assessor, I get that, and it really is an improvement to people who are operating the controls, so that they can focus on what they do, doing what they love, and not necessarily sending a screenshot of, hey, here's evidence that I did my job today, because it just feels demeaning at times.
Well, automation is one part of it, making it more that goes along the lines of efficiency and gaining efficiencies and cost. The other part of this is gaining more insights from all the richness and the data that you're bringing into your GRC platform, and having a better sense of risk within your organization, so you're better able to plan and react, or be more proactive rather, in managing a risk.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And as a CISO, I know before I go in front of a board, I want to have a good handle on where we are with risks right now.
Right.
Usually it's an appendix deck, actually, because if you just get through the top 3 slides, you're probably fine. But having all of that information on background really does help.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So if those are all the good things, what are some of the pitfalls? Like, where are some of the stumbling blocks where you see organizations see this future of automated risk and compliance and they go, I want one of those? Where do they fall down, in your opinion?
Automation was one thing, but it's around the testing and validation of what you gain from the automation. We can't forget to do that because, we actually embarked upon, as part of the automation effort we did with Hyperproof, we saved roughly over 1,000 personnel hours.
Wow, that's like over a half a year of the person's time.
Yes, but alongside that, in parallel, we kicked off an effort called CCM, Continuous Control and Monitoring, which is checking not only is the efficacy of these automations, are they occurring, but looking really at the quality of the information you're getting. Is the evidence complete, accurate, reasonable? So you don't want to automate and just walk away and forget about it until audit time. That puts you at risk if you don't know what's going on in your environment. So it gives us a bit of view how we're doing around managing our risk throughout the year.
So I want to go back to a theme here. Your team is here, they're all GRC professionals. AI is clearly the new hotness. So what advice are you giving them, or what advice would you give to GRC professionals on how to deal with the rapid integration and adoption of AI into GRC?
Yeah, I think first is just really understanding, stay informed, be informed, take advantage of a lot of free courses out there and some paid, courses like whether it's the Google Gemini platform or Deep Learning AI, IBM, Stanford, they all have things that they're advertising or marketing around gaining more knowledge about AI. So really get a good understanding of this technology and watch all the regulatory changes that are happening in the ISO space. I'd say there are some good publications out there. I'm going to do a plug real quick. I was working with a group called Athena Alliance, and we produced a AI governance playbook.
Ooh.
That's something that may be worth to just see, from a perspective of how you manage it through the whole life cycle, from even at the board level.
We'll see if we can link to that in the show notes as well when this goes live on our platforms. But I love that. That's fantastic, because I think organizations are looking for that prescriptive guidance.
Yes.
But then looking ahead, what do you see as some of the changes? Like, let's speculate into the future, just a brief bit, in the next 3 or 5 years. What do you think we're going to see for the convergence of AI and GRC?
I think I see a positive convergence around AI and GRC because it will help us, get through questions faster, research faster, right? We often get the question, where does this requirement come from? And oftentimes it's our team looking through mounts of information to get an answer. Now you could have the AI actually help you shortcut that level of research, and you can get that answer very quickly. But I'm going back to make sure you validate the information and train your model, making sure that you're providing an accurate response from that.
I think that's really a responsible way of looking at it, because ultimately at the end of the day, humans have to sign these documents.
Yes,
right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so we have to always be cognizant of that.
Yes, you can't move away from, at least at this point, my point of view is you can't move away from the human element.
Right.
Artificial intelligence is a combination of convergence of humans working with technology.
So I want to, as we move towards a close here of this, I want to ask about that 1,100 hours of time you're saving there. Because one of the themes that we've heard throughout RSA has been about making cybersecurity a profit center, or making it a strategic competitive advantage rather than a cost center that money goes into and tears come out of ultimately, or breaches come out of. So what advice do you have for CISOs to work with GRC teams like yours in showing the business value of cybersecurity and their contributions?
Look, I think from the boardroom to the consumer level, there's heightened awareness around cybersecurity and some of the threats that have come from that, whether it's, ransomware or hacks that have happened. I'm sure you've either gotten your disclosure notices through your email box or your post mailbox. And so I would say the security team should work very closely with their compliance functions to shore up and strengthen their controls to be able to withstand some of the tests that will occur. And I think that adds value to an organization, knowing that they could feel some level of assurance that they've done what they can to have their control structure in place to deal with some of these risks. And I know I talked about the cost efficiency aspect of it, but also the risk aspect of it as well, because we're going through lots of changes with even the layoffs that are happening in tech. The person who used to run that control today may not be there anymore in the future, and you want to make sure you understand when that changes, that somebody takes over that control. You don't want to find that out much later on where it starts to impact your audits, right? Or worst case, it increases the risk within your organization. So having the value around cost and efficiency with automation and GRC, with AI, and having better insights into your risk, I think will allow an organization to thrive through these changes.
I love that. That's a very well-rounded, very mature answer. And with that, I want to thank you, Brenda, for joining me on InfoSec Pros on the Road from RSA 2024. And I want to thank everyone for watching.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.